I'm Cheree Ramirez, the host of Community Unity by Children's Services Council of Martin County, located at the 10th Street Studio. I'm with special guest Nicole Clark. She is the CEO of the Adult Pediatric Institute.
Hi, thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Really excited to get to talk with you guys and let the community members know who we are.
Of course. So one of the most exciting things is just recently the council voted on you guys being funded as a new partnership grant. So we're super excited that you're coming on because we're excited to see the work that you're going to be doing in the community. Can you tell me a little bit about the Adult and Pediatric Institute?
Yes, absolutely. So we are a comprehensive psychiatric practice located in beautiful Stuart, and we see children, adolescents, and adults. We offer medication management, autism evaluations, psychiatric evaluations, and talk therapy. And we're a concierge level practice. And so what that means is we offer a certain level of care that's not necessarily offered by traditional providers. It's very intimate. We offer certain features such as being able to text message directly with the doctor, with the psychiatrist, next day appointments, weekend appointments, evening appointments.
You have a beautiful facility.
Thank you.
You're right next to, you're sandwiched between really the Economic Council and the Business Development Board.
Yes, we have fantastic neighbors. We love our neighbors. The building is beautiful. There's ease of parking.
It's a calming environment that you guys have created over there. And I know that you guys put a lot of work into that environment yourself.
Yes, yeah. So we were self-funded by myself and my partner. My partner is Dr. Mariel Paralytic-Morales. Her name is a mouthful, and so she lovingly goes by Dr. P. She is, and obviously I'm biased because she's my partner, but she is one of the most brilliant psychiatrists I have ever worked with in my 20 years in medicine and healthcare. And her and I, when we did the office ourselves, we picked out paint color, we put together furniture, and it really was just to focus on creating an environment that allowed our clients to feel comfortable, because it's scary coming in and talking to a mental health professional. And everyone kind of has this picture in their head of their Freudian couch, and we do have one of those, but it can be scary, and we want them to feel relaxed with us. We want the kids to feel relaxed with us.
I was going to say, especially since you're working with children as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have just piles and piles of Legos and coloring books so that the kids have something that they can do to ease into the session. And Dr. P has been doing this long enough that she has all of the tricks where she can take some of the toughest cases of kids that will not talk to anyone, and within an hour they're opening up to her about their feelings and pointing to the chart how they're feeling that day. And so she really has a unique gift to be able to connect with people and connect with her clients.
That's beautiful. And how did you two meet?
We met through a close contact through her husband, and he had introduced me to her because we both had the same ambitions. We both had these dreams to open up this state-of-the-art, world-class mental health center where we could provide every service under the sun to clients, and we could kind of be a one-stop shop for mental health, or maybe acupuncture, massage therapy, or incorporate some Eastern medicine practices. And the day that we met in Stuart in downtown, and the day that we met, we knew this was it. We were going to be partners, and she and I have become almost best friends throughout this process. I really rely heavily on her and vice versa.
When did you guys open your practice?
So we just opened in October of last year. We started taking new clients. Dr. P had her own practice prior to us opening this one, and so she had already been up and running, and so she had already had some clients that transitioned over to the new practice. But we're fairly new.
So tell me how you decided to come up with this 501c3.
I would get a lot of calls from parents, and they were struggling in the community, and they couldn't find certain services, namely autism evaluations. Wait lists were 2 years long, especially for low-income, medically needy families. And so I would get these calls, and unfortunately, as a new practice, we don't have the funds where we could provide these services for free yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it would break my heart. I'm an autism mom myself. I've been in this community, and it would break my heart. And there was some days where I would just hang up the phone with these parents, and I would just cry because I wanted to help them so much, but I couldn't. And so I went to Children's Services Council Martin County to find out where they could maybe come in to help, even if it was just directing the families to the right area. Unfortunately, there was nowhere to direct these families to.
Definitely a gap in the community.
There was a huge gap.
Because there's waiting lists at other organizations that, just don't have the bandwidth currently to be able to meet those needs. So can you tell me about what makes it so important for you to be able to do this work?
Absolutely. So I have 2 little girls. I have a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they are both diagnosed with autism. And I know how that feels as a mom, to feel like you're on an island, to feel like you have these special needs kids and you can't find help for them. You can't find services for them. Everyone wants to give you a list of services, right? And then you start to go down the list and you almost go down this rabbit hole to where people maybe don't answer your call, or no, that program's no longer available, or yeah, we can help you with this, but first you have to go through all of these other entities or agencies before you can come to us. And it just feels very lonely, and it's very frustrating. And as a parent, all you want to do is help your child. You want to make sure that your child is safe, that your child is taken care of, that you can lessen the burden on them. And I struggled with that. And I've been high-level nursing leadership for years. And I'm a board-certified psychiatric mental health nurse. I'm in the field. And I couldn't navigate it for my children. How would someone who doesn't have the connections that they can call the psychiatrist, hey, how do you get this service going? Hey, how do you get that going? Or the knowledge of insurance policies. How are they managing? And they're not. The answer is they're not. And so I devoted my career at that point. I pivoted and I decided to focus on pediatric mental health and pediatric, mostly autism, because they need help. The community needs help. There's no one. There are people out there. Let me back up. There are people out there. There absolutely are. There's us. There's you guys. There are entities out there. But when you're in it and when you're trying to find something, it's almost like you have these blinders on. You feel like you're in this dark hole and there's no one there to help pull you out. And so I decided to focus on being that person to listen to these families, listen to what they need, and connect them with resources in the community. And from there, it became a no-brainer to do it myself, right? And keep doing the case management for these clients and the intensive case management for them, and help connect them with CSC of Martin County, help connect them with Tyson Teens, help connect them with all of these organizations that want to help, and they're just not even aware that they're there.
Yeah, that's why we do this Community Unity podcast. That's why we take it so personally, is because we know that there are people who don't know how to navigate the process. And, having been through it again myself and needing to figure out different avenues, it does take a lot. And being a resource and being transparent to the community and being that person to kind of meet them where they're at, to be able to help them through. Like, I love the community partnerships that we have and the community leaders, because we live in a beautiful community that truly cares about the person sitting next to them. And that's why we have these conversations. That's why we come up with new ideas to start a 501c3, a nonprofit, from our for-profit business, to be able to help those families who are in the gap, who are
absolutely
stuck there and not knowing what to do. So that's really wonderful that you use that as your motivator
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
your daughters are very blessed to have you as their mom.
Some days they think yes. Some days
I
they might
mean-
argue with you. You know, they're not a fan of chores, but you know.
I hear you. I hear you. So, in the same breath, you know, I'm sure my daughter could say the
Yeah,
same
right.
thing.
I mean, it's kids. They're still going to be kids.
But we're so excited to be able to walk alongside you. I know that the Community Foundation of Martin and St. Lucie County also has given you funds to do a match for this partnership.
Yes.
So, starting off this year, I believe the council approved $10,000 to be able to help, because the testing itself, the evaluation itself, is $2,500 typically.
So that's through the foundation. So typically our comprehensive autism evaluations, they're $3,800, and that's
Okay.
about in the middle, right? So if you go down into Jupiter, you're going to find practices that they start at $5,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And
So what is the process like for the evaluation to have it be so extensive and costly?
Sure. So, you know, a lot of this, Medicaid tends to set the bar on what they will consider a valid evaluation to recognize an autism diagnosis and therefore approve services. Once Medicaid creates certain rules, the other insurance companies will tend to follow suit. And so I know that there's really good people at way above my pay grade that are higher up that are working with Medicaid to make this process a little bit easier for families to be able to get these evaluations done. But as it stands right now, it is very comprehensive. It is very thorough. A great example is when we're doing an autism evaluation and we want these families to be able to take our report and get services, we have to include in that report that they've had a hearing test. We have to include that they've had a vision test, because insurance will sometimes look at that and say, well, how do you know their behaviors aren't because they're hard of hearing?
Interesting.
Well, how we know that is because we have 40 plus years of combined experience working in mental health. That's how we know that, and because Dr. P is brilliant. But nonetheless, we have to cross the
Insurances
T's and
need
dot
to
the I's.
Make sure, of course. So you decided to start your own practice here in Stuart. What led you to that decision?
I've worked in large hospital systems for quite some time. You know, I got my start in the military. I was a trauma corpsman in the Navy.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And when I got out, I kind of continued that trajectory. I kept thinking as an RN, if I could just make it to the next leadership position, I could affect real change. If I can just get higher in the chain of command, I can affect real change, and I can make real positive change for the staff, for the clients. And I kept moving up and moving up and moving up, and I realized, you know, as you get to a certain level, you start to get more of a glimpse in the behind the scenes, what's going on behind the curtain that you would not otherwise know.
Yeah.
And once I started getting up there, I started to realize that a lot of healthcare is dictated by insurance companies. Doctors' hands are tied. Hospital systems' hands are tied. It's the insurance company that get to call the shots. It's the insurance company that say, no, you can only see this client for this reason, and you get 30 minutes to do that if you're lucky, depending on the specialty you're in. And that didn't sit well with me. Everyone should get access to high quality care. And that's where the nonprofit came into play. Because if we can go through the community, if we can go through generous donors, and their donors are unbelievably generous, they really care about their community members, then we can fund people through the nonprofit to get access to the same level of services with zero cost to the family. We never bill insurance. We never charge the family a dime. Period.
That's amazing.
It's
a blessing.
Children's Services Council that did this. And I know I keep saying that, and I'm not saying that as a plug for them. I'm saying it because they are the first government entity of its kind in the state of Florida to finally care about kids with autism and care about what these families have been going through. I mean, this isn't done at this level in this way before. It hasn't been done before. And now all these other entities are following their lead, but they get to they're leading the charge in this.
That's
That's
awesome.
huge.
Well, thank you for bringing the issue to our attention.
Yeah.
For us, we like to be able to make sure that we can help as best as we can with the gaps, and we are only blessed to do that because of the Martin County homeowner support for the past 35 years. If we didn't have their support for over 35 years, we wouldn't be receiving the ad valorem taxes to be able to rededicate and reallocate to children and family funding programs. So now that you're newly funded with CSC dollars, we now are able to support 28 different providers and 48 different programs. So,
It's amazing.
it's pretty amazing. And right now we have our newest RFP out and request for proposal. So, we're going through the success in school and life, the academic category. And so, we'll be looking into giving additional dollars out there soon. So, we're just grateful that we have providers who care enough to make that change and to be a voice for the people who don't have a voice, who don't know how to use their voice.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wonderful. So thank you so much, and for your
Thank you.
passion. That's truly something that I just really admire, and everyone that I've been able to sit down with and discovering who they are and their why and the reasoning behind the program and the organization itself.
Yeah.
So leading into the process again of how you do the evaluations, at what age can you start learning about a child on the spectrum?
Sure. So the CDC recommends that pediatricians start the screeners essentially as early as 6 months, 9 months. They should be starting to do the screenings
Okay.
for autism or developmental disorders.
And is that through a regular PEDS office?
Yep, through your well child visits.
Okay.
They're normally doing screeners during the well child visit. So they're looking for key attributes that would indicate that there might be some autism red flags, I guess you would say, or developmental disorder red flags. They're looking to see, is the child making eye contact, which, by the way, on that note, eye contact is not necessarily the only thing that has to do with autism. In fact, I was told by my girls' provider that because my child makes eye contact, that she clearly doesn't have autism. So I want to go ahead and dispel that myth right now. A child can make eye contact. It can be a learned behavior that they make eye contact. But nonetheless, they're looking, is a child following your voice? Are they looking at you when they call your name? Things like that. And so that's done at a well child visit. Normally, a pediatrician will identify that something here, they're a little bit delayed in a certain developmental milestone, something here is going on and they need maybe a little bit more evaluation. That's when they would come to us if we're suspecting autism.
Mm-hmm.
We can test, we utilize the ADOS-2. That's the gold standard in testing. It's also the one that Medicaid wants to see and all of the other insurance companies. And that we can test as young as 12 months.
Okay.
Now, there's a catch there, though. If we test between the ages of 12 months and 30 months, that's the only age period where the child will need a reevaluation in the future.
Okay, so that was going to be a follow-up
Yes.
question. If they're testing so young, they do need a
Correct.
second evaluation.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's different modules depending on age and then also depending on their ability and their verbal ability. And so when we're testing below the age of 30 months and younger, that would be the toddler module. It's the only module that they will need follow-up testing, another ADOS preferably done in the future. And at that point, you would want to add on cognitive testing as well to rule out any severe intellectual disabilities. Over that is a diagnosis the rest of their life. Autism doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Symptoms get better.
Yeah, because you have the therapies that are available. And
Yep. And in fact, we recommend that parents don't necessarily seek another evaluation in the future, because I also get that question from parents. Well, they were diagnosed really young. Maybe they were 3. They did all these evaluation or all these therapy services rather. They immediately got them into, let's say, OT, speech, ABA therapy, play therapy, all these different therapies. Now the child is about 10 and they want to get them reevaluated to see where they're at now on the spectrum. Well, the problem with that is, think of autism. How I like to think of autism is I don't think of autism necessarily as a disability. I think of it as a way for us to be able to explain certain behaviors and learn how to better communicate with another person, right? So you have identified this diagnosis early on. You've learned to communicate. You've taught them how to communicate with the world around them. There is a chance that they score low enough that they no longer fall under the spectrum. Well, we know that autism never goes away.
Yeah.
Right? We know this. This is it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's mostly genetic, I'll say, without getting into any of those hot waters. And so we know it doesn't go away. Well, the insurance might have something to say about that. So if the insurance finds out that they no longer score high enough with their behaviors or maladaptive behaviors to meet the criteria for autism, that family is now at risk of losing all of their therapies, losing scholarships, losing IEP accommodations. They're at risk of losing all of that because they're at risk of losing that diagnosis in the eyes of insurance companies.
You do want to keep those benefits because then your child could backslide back into not having that communication as well set up because they're not having the therapies that they've been receiving.
They no longer get the therapies, right? And those therapies, ideally, they're only going to last a certain amount of time, right? They shouldn't be their whole life per se. But even once they graduate from therapy, if they move into the next developmental stage of their life, right, teens, puberty, new things are going to pop up.
Yeah.
New maladaptive or negative behaviors are going to pop up.
I think that goes for everybody.
All the way throughout lifespan.
All throughout life.
Right? And so it's great to have those benefits.
Changes.
Yeah.
There's changes. There's things that could happen outside, stressors, to be able to help with something get a little elevated. So another thing that I was really interested in is your community partners. So you've worked closely with different organizations already. You've mentioned Tykes and Teens already. But one that you had brought up before was the Elks. And their organization and the help that they've been able to give you guys. Can you expound upon that?
Absolutely. When I started getting these calls about parents that could not afford our services, I kind of made it my mission to get these services covered. And so I started reaching out to anyone and everyone that I could even think of. Well, I happened to meet the Florida Elks Children's Therapy Services team at the CARD conference, which is an autism conference up in Orlando. And unbeknownst to me, and I think a lot of others, I had no idea that one of their big missions in the state of Florida is autism.
Interesting. I didn't know that either.
Right? Who would know? More people need to know. So that's my job now, is to make more people aware of these amazing organizations and give them the credit that they deserve. So they had been trying to create a program to fund autism evaluations for free to kids in need. It's not unknown that these wait lists are ridiculous and that kids are struggling. And so they've been working on this since COVID, before COVID. And COVID kind of slowed them down a little bit. Well, we met them. We immediately hit it off. I said, I want to do this with you guys. How do we do this? And now we were able to announce a couple weeks ago the Florida Elks for Autism program in partnership with us. And we are providing up to 40 free comprehensive autism evaluations per year to children in the state of Florida under the age 18, regardless of their income status, regardless of their insurance status, regardless of anything.
That's a slow clap moment. That's you never know who you're going to have a conversation with who can change your life, or who can change the trajectory, of where you see your vision and your dream of making things more affordable. Well, not even affordable, more available to families. Yeah. So Children's Services Council is covering Martin County families.
Yes.
But How many families have you seen outside of just Martin County? I'm just curious to know, like, from the referrals from Elks and everywhere else
Sure.
that you've been working
So we are already booking out with that program. We have filled all of the spots for the rest of the year.
with. Wow.
40 tests a year sound like it's a lot. It's not a lot when families in Florida are waiting up to 2 years for these appointments. And they cannot access any services until
They have
they
the
have
tests.
this evaluation. And so with this program with Children's Services Council Martin County, now we know, okay, at least the kids in need in Martin County are covered.
Mm-hmm.
What about the rest of the kids?
Yeah.
We have a growing list. People are reaching out. All it took within a couple hours of me posting on Facebook that this program was announced and that it was available, it was like bing, bing, bing throughout my email, throughout the website, throughout Facebook messaging. We had booked up the majority of the appointments within a week of
Wow.
announcing for the rest of the year.
Wow.
So we
It's
need more.
needed, yeah.
It's needed. It's proof in the pudding, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was validation that, okay, this is needed. With Children's Services Council, with the Martin County program, I already have a lot of the spots that are already I know the families that they're going to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Because before this program got approved, I started collecting names to say, listen, here's where I'm going to refer you to. But let me get your information, because if I can find the
Just in
funding,
case.
if I can find the funding, I will call you. And so that might go pretty quick. We don't know yet, right, until we start scheduling. But there's so many families that need help with this, that they need this evaluation. And nobody is tracking this data. No one. No one is tracking the data before they get diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
We're tracking data, CDC, Department of Health, they're tracking data once they have the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Once they're already enrolled with early steps, we're tracking that.
And early steps is with Easter seals.
With Easter seals in Florida.
And we are
region.
another, they're another organization funded with CSC taxpayer dollars.
Yep. And I love early steps in our region. I've heard some horror stories about other regions, and not necessarily in the state of Florida, just in the country. But I think that our early steps, and Natalie specifically, I'm name dropping Natalie because that woman is tireless for the autism community. She has been my go-to resource to say, hey, I got a call from a family. This is where they're struggling. Can you point me in the right direction? I don't even know how she does it all, because she's also the mom of a special needs daughter who's older and just raised beautifully by this woman. And I think that our early steps team in our area they're phenomenal. They care so much about the family. But nonetheless, this isn't a data area that they're going to track. Yeah. And so with this program and with these free programs, one of the things that we're doing through the foundation that is not grant funded. So, hey, if you're out there and you want to give us a grant for this research, we'll take it. And we can hire someone besides myself to collect this data. That'd be cool. Is we want to look at these health determinants. We want to look at, when did you first notice symptoms? Have you called anyone? When is your next appointment?
Mm-hmm.
What services are they currently receiving? If not, why? What services do you need for them? And so we want to look at this to see there's so much research potential that can come out of this for health determinants. Why are they missing the early intervention period? What was the holdup? Was it because they were waiting on a wait list to get evaluated for that first appointment?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good that can come out of programs like this that can help guide future funding and future funding needs.
At CSC, we are investing in the future, and we have to start now investing. We have to start now giving the students, the children, the families their best chance at being successful adults and having safe, stable communities.
Yeah,
so,
and I think it starts with decreasing the stigma associated with mental health and saying it's okay to not be okay. And
we've seen since COVID an uptick in that support, but it's still there. It to some extent, it's still there. And throughout the whole spectrum of, whether they have anxiety disorder or autism or ADHD. These are all things that we need to be able to show a little bit more grace as humans to be able to make this world a better place.
Yeah. My friend, I'll quote my friend. She says, there's no such thing as normal. The only normal is a setting on a washing machine. Everyone says they want to be normal. I wish I was normal. You are normal. There's just people that hide it better.
Yeah.
And people that are more courageous and willing to speak out to say, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
That's where the real courage comes from. That's where the real bravery is being vulnerable. And so we want to create an environment and we want to model that thought process, that way of living of it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to support our clients and support our community to say, if you're really struggling, there are people that care. I promise. It may feel like there isn't. It may feel like you're completely alone on this planet. You're not. There are people that genuinely care and have lived through some of what you're going through and can maybe relate and want to help. And it's not a burden.
Yeah.
You're not a burden. People say that all the time. I feel like I'm taking up so much of your time. I'm like, no, this is what I love to do more than anything else. At the end of the day, when everything is said and done and my time on this earth is no longer, it's coming to an end, I need to know for my own reasoning that I help people, that I made a difference in at least one person's life, that I did something to make the world better for my kids. The world is hurting, right?
Yeah.
And we need to all come together to make it better. My kids deserve that.
Community unity.
Yeah.
And that is my sentiment as well. And feel that's why we get along so well. Like since the moment I met you, we just I felt we clicked.
Yep.
And I'm just so excited to see what you and Dr. P are going to be bringing to this community. CSC is happy and glad to be a part of that and being able to help service the children who need it the most and the families, giving them that extra support and being able to pay for these evaluations to be able to help them get to their next step so they can receive the therapy, so they can receive the support for their child that they need. So thank you for your heart and your vulnerability today and sharing your why and the purpose of bringing this program to Martin County and getting it established.
Thank you for letting me share.
I appreciate your time, and be sure to like and share this information with your friends, your family, your neighbors, your enemies even, this information is needed for our community. Just share. I mean, we need more community unity in our life, and we need to be more human, and I just absolutely love that we have a community that truly cares and is willing to make that difference. So thank you, Martin County homeowners, for your continued support for over 35 years. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Community Unity. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Share our information with friends and family to help spread the information on life-changing programs funded by CSCMC, made possible by the homeowners of Martin County.